I will make this presentation as short as possible because the idea is many people have asked, I mean, this is something we've been working on for many years, and we think it's very important because at the end of the day, who implement the sustainable development, who is responsible for making sure sustainable development is realized in a country is the government. So no matter how much universities are working, NGOs, anyone in the country, it needs the government. And when we've been asked about this question many times in Kingdom of Bahrain, in Nigeria, other countries. Even in Bahrain, we've been asked, where is the office to lead this initiative? In Bahrain, we said to them, Prime Minister office. So therefore, it will all fall into the government. So public policy is important. So quickly, I will talk about not really the great detail of public policy because there is no time, but the concepts are important. And also I will look at the original concept of sustainable development and its relationship with public policy and what are the challenges current countries are facing, particularly post-COVID-19. Then we'll go. As Dr. Petru said, we collaborated, not me, but the WSD academia. Beverly, one of them, I can remember her, she is from the team from the US. We have been involved with the United Nations Joint Inspection Unit on this very major report. It's called Strengthening the Policy Research Uptake in Service of the United Nations Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. And I think that was, according to the report, one of the first time really academia have been involved in contributing and giving evidence to a UN report, which was encouraging all academia that research has to be in the far front of public. So accordingly, we realize there isn't much available at universities or in the public domain about how people can master public policy to achieve sustainable development. We launched this comprehensive 5 days workshop last year. This is actually September, but we started in August 2023, where we tried to cover all this subject with 7 or 8 case studies from the United Nations Joint Inspection Unit report. Dr. Petru authored 6 or 7 of this report. So we talk about everything, and then we have a case study from the UN. I don't know what is the next time, but this is meant to be for governments, for public policy officials, for students, for others. Now, public policy is becoming a very important subject. There is department responsible for public policy. And I mentioned yesterday, Jawaharlal Nehru University, they have a center for public policy. But generally, when we analyze policy, before we go into what are the challenges, we have proposals, or we call it the proposal and systematic evaluation of alternative. There's always the question of alternative. If I can't do this, there's always a question of, I can't do this. What plan B, plan C, plan B? So evaluation of alternative policy options to address specific policy problems. Something I want to achieve, I have to evaluate all the options. Conducted for a specific client emphasizes logic, analytical rigor, and empirical evidence. And I think Dr. Petru have mentioned a lot of this, or emphasized most of them. One particular element of public policy is really what we call it green behavior. And I'm really glad in 2016, Beverly, you were in Turkey, right? Istanbul. That was what you discussed in Istanbul. In Istanbul, 2015, interestingly, when I look back to the journey of WSD, of course, people, they will say to me, Allam, you are biased because this is, yeah, all of you will say that, but it's true. We discussed this issue in Istanbul 2015, green behavior. And you can see that book, Green Behavior, Rethinking Policy for Sustainability. So that governments need to really drive this. If we're going to be green, we have to start thinking about this. Also, I remember 2016, as Sadiq Musa, I see him here, we discussed the future of Europe after the European Union. You remember because at that time, there was lots of discussion about the UK leaving Europe. What will happen? That was discussed before the UK actually leaves the European Union. So green behavior is one issue. And here, just to look quickly, the government in the UK, and I think many European countries, they introduced 5 bins. This is like 8 or 7 years ago. They said if you buy, to try to solve the problem of plastic bags, which is a serious problem worldwide, they said if you want a plastic bag, you have to pay 5 bins. Many people, not myself only, many people told them this is really rubbish. 5 pence will stop someone from throwing a plastic bag in the bin on the street? No. Now it is 30 pence. Now in the UK, if you want to take a plastic bag from the market, you have to pay 30 pence. But many of the British public, and there is many of them here, sorry to put you on the spotlight, maybe Dr. Amani, do you know where that money is going? The 30 pence you pay to supermarket in the UK, do you know where does it go?
I'm not quite sure, but I believe some of it is going through recycle to.
It's supposed to actually help because you're paying to do something positive. Even the public, they don't know where that money is going. It's supposed to go to school to educate kids about not throwing plastic bags and so on. So it's a big policy issue. Let's quickly move. Now, I know you all understand sustainable development. We've been through this many times, but there is still, I am happy that we have done a lot of work, but I want to take you back to when this concept of sustainable development came. This is Gro Brundtland. The report was named under her name because she was the chair of the United Nations at that time, who produced this famous report, the World Commission on Environment, 1987. I use this slide every day. I have been traveling with me everywhere, Africa, Middle East. And I want to draw your attention, particularly Arab countries, because until recently, I think we still, the lowest achievers are in the Arab countries. But if you look to the people who were actually involved in writing this historical report, that the deputy chair is Dr. Mansour Khalid from Sudan at the time, rahimahullah. Saudi Arabia was involved in hosting some of the round tables of the engineering. Oman supported financially this report. Algeria. So any Arab countries I go, I say to them, this is one of the reports, which is the most important report of the United Nations. You should not blame the United Nations for not knowing how to do it. When they ask me, but it's very complicated. I said, but your country contributed to this report. Some background say the major person who contributed was Dr. Mansour Khalid from Sudan at the time. This is from the UN, this is not me. So you can see Sudan was there, Saudi Arabia. Again, African countries like Zimbabwe. I know Petro will have a different view because he's a UN expert. He will say that doesn't mean they are the only one who knows about it. No. But what I'm trying to say, if I am in a committee, I've produced this report, at least my country will know anything about it, at least. And that will take us to the knowledge transfer. These countries, at least they have tried. So you can see Canada, Yugoslavia, Nigeria, Indonesia. Professor Newman, your country was the founder of this report. Indonesia was one of them, and so on and so on. So that's number. But the important thing, development that meets the needs of the current without compromising the future. We all know this definition. Now, until recently, we start to raise this issue, and I would like you all to raise it with us, particularly the young generations. Kids. I remember Lena said, my dad, he only got his first mobile phone after he graduated. It's true. I only received my mobile phone. The first time I touched a mobile phone after I finished my university. Now kids as young as 2 years, they hold a mobile phone. A study by University of East London, Rawat's colleagues in his department. Yes, this is a major study 3-4 years ago. And I think University of Bristol, and I think one university in Belgium, 220,000 euro is spent on a major research led by one of Dr. Rawat's colleagues. They found, and this is a fact, by the way, they found the amount of people watching, the amount of energy consumed for live watching of Despacito. You know the song? The Despacito? Don't be shy. I know all of you have seen it, most of you. The amount of energy they calculated, you know, you watch it live, like this is live now. So the amount of energy we consume by this live broadcast is huge. The amount of people watching that video live on streaming is #1 in the world, by the way. At the time, Rawat's colleagues, they have done that research. It was watched 6.18 billion times, higher than any video in the whole world. No Michael Jackson, whatever it is, nothing. 6.18 billion, not million. Now, at that time, they calculated in their own laboratories the amount of energy consumed to watch that video, equivalent to the energy by 7 African countries. Imagine Burkina Faso, blah, blah, blah. They have them. This is a big, well-researched. 7 countries, African countries, the amount of energy they consume is equivalent to what we watch. But then more interestingly, was watched everywhere. 10 million viewers from Morocco, 10 million from Saudi Arabia, from every country people watch it. That's not the issue now, why they watch it. Yes, they did a lot of work to find out why people watch that video. That's another thing, to help people in marketing and so on. But that leads us to the question, children, because we are doing all this for them, we need to educate them now. You also have to take the responsibility because they are excessively using mobile phones. And this is a big issue. In the UK, we lost children. Amani will know that. Children, they kill themselves because of watching TV. So that means now we need to change the discussion, public policy. Yes, we want to reserve the future for kids, but we need to educate kids. They are also responsible to make sure the future is brighter for them. Second thing, many confusion is being mentioned. It's not foreign aid. Many countries suffer from sustainability issues. Australia, those who went to Australia with us, Sadiq, did you go to Australia? I can't remember. You did. We went to Australia, the great country. They told us from day one, you have to make your shower 5 minutes. Yes, true, in Brisbane. Why? They said because there's a shortage of water. Australia. In the UK, when Gordon Brown, our prime minister, there was flooding, affected an area called Gloucestershire. 2 days, they don't have electricity. He had to fly by helicopter to see them. So these issues are not really developed or developing, affecting everyone. Let's go quickly. Heterogeneity, yes. Sudan is not Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not Qatar. Qatar is not America, and so on. Uniqueness, neither one of us, this is an agreed now, can do it alone. You can't. And the good example is COVID-19. If Abu Dhabi was one of the cities closed its border completely, but would they be able to solve it eventually? Yes, they did very well. Saudi Arabia was very well. Some countries are well prepared, like the UK, America, and so on. Some countries, they were not. We need to work together, otherwise it will not happen. Quickly with the time, we've been through many reports. When I was doing my PhD at that time, we were talking about Brundtland's report, we were talking about Millennium Development Goals, and then we were talking about the World Bank imperatives, and then Kofi Annan came with the WEHAP. This going on and on and on. Now, the important question is, can you mandate sustainable development in a country? The answer is no, you can't. It is a responsibility of the government. If the government say, you have to do this and this, it will not happen. And one good example is what Dr. Petru just mentioned about the voluntary reporting. Even the UN cannot enforce countries to submit these reports about sustainability. So that means it needs, the role of the education is critical. Universities, they can play a critical role to make the citizen of the country really, really do this. And to make their case with the political leaders. Who can make case with the political leader is or are the academics. Jeffrey Sachs, when he went and gave his famous talk, when he was the advisor of the Millennium Development Goals, he said to America, to the United States, a leading country in science and technology, he said, my advice to the White House, at that time it was George W. Bush, is to ensure they subscribe to the journal Scientist, or New Scientist, I can't remember. So he emphasized, George W. Bush, I mean the whole country, the government, needs to implement or to read and to. So you have a great opportunity, but you, academia, listening to me everywhere, you need to transform. Quickly, this is anyone from science and technology, I don't think they will come through this slide, but this is a basic slide in those like me who teach business and management, is the first slide we teach in the first course on management. Students, we tell them, you're here to study management? Yes. You need to understand what is an organization, what is the JIU here, what is this building, what is Qatar mission, this is an organization, University of Sussex is an organization, British Airways, we're going to drive. These are all organizations. Any organization is 4 pillars. I will go quickly. Look to the last one. This came in the 80s to change the textbook, accumulation of knowledge and learning. No organization can survive without these 4 pillars. One of them is accumulation of knowledge and learning. What we did in these 4 days, accumulation of knowledge and learning. We keep saying the UN, everyone, government, prime minister, they say universities are the house which produce knowledge. We are the producer of this knowledge. So universities need to remind themselves, without the knowledge they produce in the classroom, there will be no organization, whatever it is. British Airways cannot survive. The hospital where I get treated across the river from where I live, across the parliament, where the prime minister goes if he needs, like, what's his name? When you enter, going to the blood center to get your blood tested, before that, anyone can see it. It's called St. Thomas Hospital. The department before the blood center is called Information and Knowledge Department. That's why they are leading. It's one of the leading hospitals in the UK. Any place you need knowledge, money. This is critical. We need to take it further. Now, believe it, this talk was 1999. This is 25 years, very famous talk. It's called the UNESCO talk. We have an expert from UNESCO here. He said, my worries, he said in that talk, we will end up in two civilizations in the future. One producing knowledge, and then they benefit from using it, and one passively receiving knowledge. And therefore, they cannot change it to the way they want it. If you are sitting passively in your country, waiting for new knowledge to come to you from whatever country, then you will be deprived from modifying it. But if you produce it, you can change it. And he's right. I have the privilege of working with Chinese students in the last 2 or 3 years through a comprehensive program. I taught them for many years. I know their culture, they're very polite in classroom. They're not vocal. I call them not vocal like our European students, but they're very smart. I learn a lot why this China is leading the world. They're so clever. They have techniques. If you go to the TikTok, anything in your mind, you want a solution for it, you will find a small video about how to do it. I'm always saying this to people. And a professor who is the director of the National Research Center of Italy told us in Sussex, because he's a Sussex graduate, Italian. He said, if you go to MIT in America, it's like Chinatown in London, full of Chinese students. This is not me, this is him. They study. I'm just using this one as an example. Look to the revolution now in Saudi Arabia, in this country, which are transforming themselves. Knowledge. So anyway, we have to go quickly. Data. Most of the time we have published data, Petro referred to it. We have data from World Bank, many reports, hundreds, World Development Indicators, UNESCO reports from 1999, statistical yearbook, 25 years of data, NCR, blah, blah, blah. But the problem, the UN itself, Petro mentioned it earlier, data is not complete. This is the problem. But Dr. Petro mentioned it. I didn't know he was going to mention it. He mentioned it just before me. So the data, even the IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, United Nations itself, in many reports, they refer to exactly what Dr. Petro said. And if you have no data, Dr. Rawad will tell you, you are just simply another person with an opinion. This is the problem. This revolution in AI need data. And if the data already acknowledged by the big people who produce it. So my advice in public policy, the government should really do the following. Make sure they can actually find the missing data about their own country and fill the gap for their own benefits so that their academics can do better job. And this is really, really, really urgent thing for public policy. This is from the UN, it's not me. Read what the UN themselves said. The UN said, this is a critical target for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Target number 4.7. This is a UN, exact wording by word from the United Nations. Education for sustainable development and global citizenship. So that Allam, if he is in Geneva, he will not throw a plastic bag. He's in New York, he will not throw a plastic bag. He's in Pakistan, he will not. You need to educate them about sustainable development. But the UN said, the UN currently not aware of data for this indicator. So how are we going to measure it? We're not going to say the UN, they don't know what they're doing. No, we need to help them. Petro said something, his analysis or anatomy of the 3 layers is perfect. We have a role to play as individuals, as universities, as countries. We cannot just blame a UN. We blame them for what? They have at least identified a very important target, education for sustainable development. But they said, as far as we know, our scientists, our educators, we don't know what is, how do we measure it? We have to help them. And I know that the time, this is a very long, many people in data science, they know it. You need to have something called Carta. We need to ensure in any country, forget about others, our own country, it has to be complete, accurate, relevant, timeliness, and appropriateness. And one example, at the time Obama became prime minister, one of the interesting places was where he came from. What is it? Hawaii. In Hawaii, They said one of the examples in that report, Hawaii government, the Hawaiian state or in the government, they have, I can't remember, 40-something missing data on one of their public sector. I read that when he became, telling us quickly, the new normal now is COVID. Yes, I know we don't have the mask, but really, changing expectation of employers. They give you a lot of work, lots of meetings. The meetings I attended after, during COVID is higher than the number of meetings I attended while we are full-time at the university. Lots of meetings before you came now, a lot of meetings day and night. You wake up in the morning, meeting people from Indonesia, from China, because that's the late time. You come to the afternoon, you bombard Beverly with Skype. Can you come on Skype, Beverly? And then you end the whole day on meeting. Increased competition post-COVID, yes. Others are repositioning, branding themselves to achieve national and international law, reduction in income and changing technology. So this is a new norm. Globally, there are many challenges, but these are more or less the big challenges everyone is us facing. Conflict and terrorism, no, doesn't even need to be explained. Ukraine, Sudan, Gaza, and so on. Water resources, yes. Fighting over water is very clear. Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, the Renaissance Dam is a water issue, no question. Energy and supply, you know that. Health and development, COVID is enough to explain. Ecosystem is enough. The Secretary General Cortez last year in the Colombia statement said, to tell you friends, simply the planet is broken. Simply, he said, humans are waging war on environment. There's no more than this to tell you about the problem. Minerals, climate change, food, minerals. Just look to the crisis in no one, many people, academics told me, Allam, I never saw 40% or 38% of the wheat production in this planet come from this small country called Ukraine. In the history, I don't know if there's anyone from Egypt here. Egyptians, who are one of the big producers of wheat, they have received wheat exported from Ukraine. Ukraine supply wheat sometimes to Egypt, big producer of wheat. People didn't even know that information. This country produces a lot of wheat and so on. Anyway, quickly, this is very famous Harvard guy. He said, countries are all different. We will never going to be the same. Our backwardness will have an implication on our forwardness. This is a famous, if you like, concept. You need to take it. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, America, your backwardness. UK, they enjoy democracy for many years. So their forwardness to benefit from democratic system is much quicker than countries which they have never seen democracy before. People, they already have knowledge system in their hospitals. Of course, they will not going to be like countries which they don't even have a structure and so on. And the famous work from the World Bank is very famous. Africans and Korea, GDP was the same. That's where the knowledge management came from. The gap mostly attributed to knowledge. And when I ask my students, and I'm sure in this room, many people will not know that answer. Number one in the world, in many reports by the World Bank and the United Nations, net exporter of ICT products is Korea. When I ask in the classroom in London, most of them, UK, America, Japan, is Korea number one. Net exporter of ICT. Can you see country? But you need to read. And I like this from the Egyptian Academy of Science. This is the way countries should do as a public policy. I really like it. I learned this from the president of the Academy of Egyptian Academy in Al-Qasim when we were speaking at Al-Qasim University in Dammam. So you can see how this learning happened. I learned this in Al-Qasim in Saudi Arabia from the president of the Egyptian Science and Technology Academy. What he said in Egypt we did, and I think this should be the example for every country. He said we put the global challenges and we try to match them with the Egyptian challenges. And he said, number one, globally, sustainable development, climate change. Number two, clean water. We found with academics the same in Egypt. But number three, which is population and resources, one of the third challenges worldwide, in Egypt, it's not the number three, it's number 8. So each country as a public policy, they should look at themselves compared to the global challenges. You don't necessarily be in the same line than others. Quickly, this came to the UN and all international forum. I'm not, of course, he's someone like us, but this is, do you really want all of your academia from a singer? That's nothing to do with saying, oh, I can't take advice from someone who is singing or a singer. We took a lot of learning from that video of Despacito. University of East London published report about how significant to learn from that song. Many people, worldwide, White, learned from him. He told them, guys, you're talking about Millennium Development Goals. A lot of people are disabled. Did you count them in your calculations? The United Nations at that time, Millennium Development Goal, they said they want 50% of girls to go to university school by 2015. How many of them, maybe some of them might be disabled, like Amani said here. He's obvious someone just said it to you because he's blind, then he realized these people are not talking about. Did they count me? Because obviously, from here, someone with any kind of disability, the way he will walk from here to that door will be different, not because he's disabled, but he can't run quickly because he will get there, but he will need slow pace. That's why in London, in the underground now, I think 6 years, they change. They say, vacate this to someone maybe with disability, and they put something next to it. Not all disability can be seen by your eyes. You don't know if this person is disabled or not. We had a problem in the UK, disabled toilets. Some people, they say, oh, I saw someone not really disabled coming out of the toilet. How did you know? His needs and so on. Lastly, this is how when we established WAD in 1999, 2000, and then 2000, we wrote a big article, What is Sustainable Development, with my colleague, I remember Josephine Stein. It was in East London, was a graduate of MIT. Wonderful women, American, British. We said for sustainable development, this is 2004 published, education is the heart of this. It's not really about how rich you are. And at that time, we gave example of 2 countries, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, very rich countries. They were in the bottom 10 of the United Nations Environmental Impact Index. That means if you are very rich, doesn't mean you take care of the environment. Then we gave example again, I gave this example again about the same countries, Saudi Arabia and Emirates, and I added Qatar. When the British Airways, KLM, Air France, took these 3 countries to the court, European court, saying these airlines, they are eating our profit because they're being subsidized by their government. The European court here ruled for the favor of the Qatar Airlines, Etihad, and Emirates. They said these airlines, they are eating your profit, they're eating your customer from London, not because their countries subsidize them by oil, but because they are very innovative. To fly from London to Abu Dhabi by Etihad, million times exciting, entertaining than to fly with British Airways. Here you have 800 movies. In British Airways, you have 13 movies. 2 of them are Mr. Bean. Yes. So you can see the people thinking is different. It's not about money. It's not about this. Anyway, I finished, but I think I would like just to draw the following. I hope by the end of this conference, we, the universities, who teach education, universities, UCL, I just heard recently, is #1 in the global ranking of education. They have an Institute of Education. Who teach everything is universities. The key to this is really, really education. And there is new thinking like the World University Association for Community Development, Professor Neom, all that association is about how university connect with the community. So I think the message we take forward, and this is Dr. Petro rightly, we need to change things. We need to move into this because now I can see people, they really focus. Education is the key to all this. Education is the key to obesity, to throwing plastic back, to the future, competitiveness, business. Korea, 97%, I think, of their income is coming from SMEs. Who taught these young people to be at SMEs? A graduate from Queen Mary University, dentistry. I met him in one of the big fairs in London, selling perfumes. He liked to make perfume, and then his family liked it from Birmingham. Then he suddenly ran 2 businesses, perfumes and doing his dentistry work. So this kind of thing is really neat. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I exceeded my time.